Welcome to Live Forever Young Radio, and today we are back with Peter Forhan, Photobiomodulation expert. Now in the last show we heard all about the amazing new technologies Peter and his company JustLight have been developing. So if you haven't seen it, be sure to go back and check it out. Now in our last of 3 episodes, Peter's going to explain how to build an inexpensive indoor light bath so you can get all the benefits of light therapy in your own home. He even reveals more secrets of the emerging technology of photobiomodulation light therapy. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
But now what we can do in our homes, and for the people that aren't living at the equator or in environments with lots of sun, there is still good news. We can build our own light baths for even just a couple $100s and start accessing the benefits every day as long as you live. So every morning, if I don't have the ability to take a natural light sun bath outside, I step into my small light bath chamber, which is actually a grow tent from Amazon. So mylar lined closet that's big enough for me to sit and meditate within. I turn on my bright white LED panel and my red light therapy bulbs, sunflowers in my case, and I sit in this bright white light and this warm infrared light. And I'm basically mimicking what the sun is doing every morning. If I can get the sun naturally, I'll do that. If I can't, or if it's winter, I'll sit in my light bath. And so we have resources of how you can build a light bath in your own home by buying a grow tent, just a really inexpensive but high quality way of creating the actual form and structure and the lights that go inside of it so that you can start taking light baths in the comfort of your own home. And they feel amazing. An infrared sauna is a lot like a light bath. This is invisible, longer wavelength infrared light, which has benefits, but not the same specific gene signaling benefits and other benefits of red and near infrared light, but holistically a very similar process. And for those that sit in an infrared sauna, you know how wonderful it can feel, getting a little bit of a sweat going, and the sort of mood boost that comes with it. And so now we are building on the vision of Neil Svinson, who in early 1900s fully believed there would be a light bath in every home. We completely agree, Neil Svinson. There should be a light bath in every home for the same reason there should be a faucet in every home. We simply have to absorb light every day as a physiological requirement. If we don't, we have predictable and consistent degenerative disease develop.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, another question I had was in regard to your eyes. So yes. We have seen the research that talks about how photons are converted into electrons in the cones and rods in your eyes, and the importance of DHA, a fatty acid, which you can get through fish oil and krill oil and the like. Can you tell us what you'd like to have the audience here in regard to that phenomena?
Yeah, so the eyes are extremely interesting in the case of light. And one of the things that we say is that there's more to light than meets the eye. Our eyes take the signal of our environment, of the colors of exposure, and they use that to inform lots of our hormonal balance, most specifically the pineal gland, kind of the master hormone gland. And so if we aren't seeing physically with our eyes certain wavelengths of light, namely UVA light or blue light at the middle of the day, then our body will go into dysregulated mode. And so when we wake up every day, if you can have the capacity and time and ability to wake up and watch the sunrise, there's a very specific blend of light that is coming from the sunrise that you can stare directly at the sun and take these collimated or laser-like rays the sun directly through your pupils, directly into your pineal gland. And there's even a practice that's actually becoming more popular now called sun gazing, that is directly staring at the sun in the areas of the morning and sunset, where you can directly get this light into your eyes. And what's really incredible about the eyes is there's so much information in the light that we have that is limited in an artificial light environment. So when we're sitting indoors all day, we're getting an output of light that's produced by a fluorescent lamp above us or an LED light above us. That is not the same blend of light that would be happening with sunlight exposure. And while that might not at first glance seem to be a big deal, It's a really big deal for a body that's evolved for millions and millions of years to use the information of our environment to tell us what season it is, to tell us what time of the day it is, to tell us if resources are plenty or if resources are scarce. And what we find is that if somebody doesn't receive proper bright white light in the morning, or waking up with the sun, viewing the sun, then the body goes into this dysfunctional hormonal mode of having low serotonin release in the body and low melatonin. And so, and this is governed by the eyes, which is really cool. So when our eyes in the morning see sunlight, we signal for the release of serotonin, the hormone that makes us feel energized, happy, things are good, it's summer, we don't need to hibernate. We have a positive mood. And in the presence of darkness, the hormone serotonin is converted to the hormone melatonin, which of course we know is the hormone that makes you feel tired and leads to restorative sleep, another of other very important functions. But if you don't have proper serotonin, you're not going to have proper melatonin. So you're going to have low, lethargic, kind of tired days. And then when you finally lay down and go to sleep, you're going to have mild, not very restorative sleep. And you're like, I was tired all day. Why is it taking me more than 5 minutes to fall asleep like a healthy human being should? And what happens is this is a very dangerous cycle. Melatonin imbalance, serotonin imbalance, serotonin imbalance, melatonin imbalance. And we'll prescribe things like SSRIs or melatonin pills, or try to make, hacks for how to apply this. These are light regulated processes. Our body regulates these hormones via light exposure through the eyes. And so viewing bright white light in your climate is very important. And if you're living in a climate that has dark, dreary winters or dark, dreary, cloudy days, that's okay, because we have the technology now to just deliver this in the comfort of your own home. We no longer need to go into hibernation mode between October and March. We can stay as a happy, functional human being, even if we're living in Sweden or in northern Michigan, by taking advantage of the technology that leads these signals to us now. So there's a lot I could say on eyes, but the signals of eyes are incredibly interesting.
That's great. And in the future, do you see JustLight developing a technology that would allow people to experience the sunrise or the sunset in their own home?
I'm glad you asked. Our sunflower that we're releasing in Q1 of 2023 will include the white light blend to do that SAD light therapy or sunrise simulation. So yes, sunflower has the capacity to replicate what I described, so you don't need a separate bright white therapy device. Our red light therapy photobiomodulation device will also include it.
And so people that may be inclined to do sun staring or sun gazing early in the morning could later in the morning experience that and have the benefits of a sun gazer, that exactly. But not have to get up at the crack of dawn to do it.
Yes, I will say that no matter how good we become as scientists, there will always be an innate benefit to the sun itself versus the LEDs we can produce, but not letting the enemy of perfection be good, or whatever the saying is. In the meantime, yes, LEDs are a great stand-in if we don't have the time or accessibility to watch the sunrise and sunset.
That's great. Now, could you tell us a little bit more about photons? So photons appear, seemingly out of nowhere when quantum leaps occur and this and that. Can you tell us in a way that that all of us can understand what a photon is, where it comes from, how it manifests, and how it generally gets made into light? And it's like the sun looks like light. Is the sun sending us photons? And if so, when do they convert to electrons and all like that?
Yeah, great question. So where to begin? So a photon, most simply for this explanation, is a particle of light. So we know of I'm going to be general, but atoms being particles of matter, so the stuff making us up, photons being a particle of light, much smaller, but interacting in a very important way. As atoms absorb photons, one of two things happen. That photon goes right through the atom and there's no interaction at all. Or that atom absorbs the photon and the electron cloud jumps to a higher energy state. And that's kind of the trapping of this energy. So when I say that water traps photons and creates electricity, it is the atoms in their specific arrangement trapping photons and their electron clouds jumping up a quantum level in this discrete jump. And so what's really interesting about this topic is that that happens in two ways. As an atom with an electron cloud out here, I guess it's a podcast. So as that electron cloud out, wide and outside the atom, reduces in its quantum state, it then releases a photon. So when something's giving off light, it's also an electrical process of the electricity of the atom going to a lower state. And when something's absorbing photons or absorbing particles of light, it's jumping to a higher electrical state. And so in the case of the sun, it's a little bit different because the sun is having a nuclear fusion process of things being torn apart and the photons within the nucleus is being released and showered every which way. We generally, besides the sun, in our day-to-day life, aren't interacting so much with the nuclear fusion side of things, but we're more so interacting with reflection, refraction, and absorption. So when I take a flashlight and point it at myself, some amount of light is absorbed by my skin, by my bone, by my brain, but some amount of light is reflected off my body. And we see and interact in our world all the light that's reflected off the things around us. So when I look out the window, I'm seeing green leaves and brown buildings and a gray road because those waves, wavelengths of photons are bouncing off those objects and being reflected into my eyes. My eyes are then taking those wavelengths of photons that are meaningless outside of the human brain, converting them to very specific electrical signals, and then creating an image of which I now see looking around me. And so we create the meaning from all these unique wavelengths of photons that are constantly showering ourselves and our body. And we kind of have a freeze frame view of this waves and waves of light energy, both visible and invisible, constantly bathing our eyes, that we're able to organize it and make sense of it. So as we look around, we're seeing vast swaths of energy reflecting off of matter, and that we just see it as, a room or as outside or as an environment. But that's not the only thing that's happening. Light's reflecting off of those pieces, but a lot of the light is being absorbed. So if you've ever stood on hot, black pavement in the sun, you know what I'm talking about. Black materials are black because they're not giving off light. They are absorbing light and only giving off a very, very small amount in equal quantities. If something's like my shirt right now is reflecting all light, we see it as white. So photons that are blue, green, yellow, red in equal magnitudes, so an equal amount of photons of those colors, we see that as white color. There is no white photon. It's just a blend of these other colors. But as we deal with materials like black materials, they absorb the light and in many cases convert it to heat. And so black pavement is a lot hotter than white pavement because that black color means that it's trapping the light and not reflecting it off. Instead, that light's being converted to another form of energy. And it always has to be converted to another form of energy, as we know from just the conservation of energy. So something's either absorbing, reflecting it, or it's passing directly through. So all the time right now, we've got massive radio waves, microwave, everything in our environment passing through us. We're absorbing fractions of the massive electromagnetic bath that we are bathed in. And we're reflecting portions of it too, which you see as my appearance and as my clothing and everything else coming off as well. But all of that reduced down are tiny, tiny, tiny particles of light or waves of light that can be viewed as one and the same, interacting with our eyes and us using that information to generate an image that we then see as our waking vision.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And Peter, before we go, can you tell us, for the people that are watching and listening, how do they get to you? I know your website is justlight.com, JustLight.com. And when they get there, what would they do in order to indicate to you that they're interested in getting a sunflower when it's available early next year?
Absolutely. So we have a reserve button on the homepage. So you'll just scroll down, click reserve. That's a no money down reservation. So once it's available, you'll be included in that first pre-production batch, or sorry, post-production batch of sunflowers. And in the meantime, anyone who wants to reserve a sunflower, if you also message us through the contact form, we can provide recommendations in the meantime of how to incorporate light into your environment, how to apply the things like the light bath and the other applications I mentioned in the call. So we love having conversations with individuals well before their customers as well. So feel free to reserve a sunflower or to just contact us, ask us about a specific disease or illness. We can point you in the right clinical direction and connect you with the resources to help with that. We've had people that are suffering from arthritis to Alzheimer's and kind of everything in between come to us, and we're able to direct them to the right resources. Even if right now the resources aren't us, we're able to still help you and get you using photobiomodulation as soon as possible.
Great. Well, Peter, do you have any last things you would like the listeners to know about before we conclude our conversation for today?
Let's see, most likely. I guess I'll kind of say what I'm always obsessed with, is that human cells and terrestrial life in general are photosynthetic. We know that plants are photosynthetic, but we don't recognize that that's a downstream mechanism of water being photoelectric. So photoelectricity is the capacity for a material to absorb photons and release electricity, or electrons and protons. We know that metals are photoelectric. That's why we use metals in all of our electrical devices. They're wonderful conductors. They're very photoelectric. We don't worldwide recognize that water is photoelectric, and that by the very geometry of water and the atomic arrangements of water, it traps photons and creates electricity. And because this physics process happens, life has evolved around this process, extracting free energy from water, with water as the primal solar panel, or the primal converter of radiation into electricity, which then leads to motion. So circulatory systems are not unique to plants, pulling water from roots to leaves. Circulatory systems are not unique to humans, circulating blood throughout our body. Circulatory systems develop because water is photoelectric, creates electric and magnetic fields, then creating vortex motion, thus creating circulation and a generation of force as these electric and magnetic fields rotate. So in a sentence, water is photoelectric, therefore living cells are photosynthetic, and we urgently need to apply this understanding to our healthcare system. It's already much too late, but no time is better than today.
Peter, thank you so very much. Thank you for introducing us to JustLight, your amazing company. And we look forward to having another talk someday. And we want to thank everyone who has been listening to and watching Live Forever Young Radio. And we'll see you all on the next show.
Great. Thank you, Bob. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio.